Hey y'all, welcome to the Gone Outdoors podcast. Thanks for joining us. This is the place where we talk about all things hunting and fishing. As we like to say, if it's going on out there, then we're talking about it right here. So let's get after it with the latest episode.
Hello folks, welcome back to the Gone Outdoors podcast. Exciting show today, one that's kind of near and dear to me because I grew up hunting public land. I've got a fella fixing to connect with Tony Jones, Locust Grove, shot in Oconee National Forest, Jasper County 9-pointer. Don't know a score on it yet. 22-inch inside spread, a true giant, a true trophy from public land. Tony, you on the phone with me?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
All right. Well, man, first off, congratulations. I think we first heard about this deer. You sent it in to Instagram, GON Instagram, didn't you?
Yeah. Actually, it was my nephew who sent it in on Instagram.
I got you. Well, it's funny. That thing came in, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, that's a big deer." And then I scrolled down and I read. I was like, "Man, that's an Oconee National Forest deer." Which immediately, like I said in my intro, that's special to me just because I grew up hunting public land. And anytime you can take a deer, especially the caliber deer that you shot, I mean, that's truly trophy of a lifetime right there. But then, like later that day, or maybe the next day, I get it's not your nephew this time. I get a message through our Facebook account, and it's a very proud wife who is extremely excited that her husband is killed in Oconee National Forest 9-pointer. So Tony, you had a number of people on different avenues, different channels trying to reach out to us on this deer. So you got some fans out there, man, who are super proud of you.
Yeah, I took the deer on Saturday, and
Saturday. So that was Saturday. I'm trying to back my clock. So Saturday, November the 2nd is when you actually took this deer.
Yes, sir. Just knowing that it was a really good deer for public land. You know, my initial thought is, man, I got to get this thing in gone. My nephew, he's pretty avid hunter himself, and he's a lot better with the social media than I am. So he helped me out with linking up with you guys on Instagram, and then also my wife on Facebook. So yeah, big thanks to those two.
Oh yeah, they had it covered. Why do you need to be up on social media when you got those two around, right?
Exactly.
Good deal. So, man, I've got to hear that. Man, these are like my all-time favorite hunt stories. I got two. One is the old deer that Duncan Dobie does a lot of stuff for us, writing old hunt stories, and man, I love those old hunt stories. But my other kind is, man, anytime somebody kills a big deer off public land, I love those hunt stories. So, man, I want to hear it from you. So Saturday, November 2nd is when you killed this deer. You've hunted this area of the National Forest in Jasper County. You were telling me before we got started. How long have you been hunting this little area?
I've been hunting that area for around 10 years now.
10 years. Okay. So, in the biggest deer that you've ever seen in there prior to this one was what?
The biggest deer that I've taken from there in that area was roughly a 2.5-year-old 8-pointer. Nothing close to this size of deer.
Yeah.
I've seen other large deer from other hunters taken out in that area, but me personally, this was definitely the largest.
Sure, yeah. And hey, a 2.5-year-old 8-pointer out of the National Forest is a good deer. You know, the reality of it is. So, I can only imagine what you're thinking as this joker came strolling through the woods. So kind of walk me through it. So Saturday, November 2nd. I'm assuming did you kill this in the morning or the evening?
It was a morning hunt.
Okay, so I'm assuming that you got in there before daylight, and how far a walk did you have from your vehicle?
It's probably a 300-yard walk in from the road.
Okay, so you park at the road. I'm guessing you got a climbing stand you use, or?
I was actually hunting from a ground blind that morning.
No kid. Is this a ground blind that you had set up, or?
Yes, sir. It was just one of the pop-up ground blinds.
Yeah. Did you bring it in with you that morning to set it up, or is it something that you kind of leave set up there, or what?
No, I actually brought it in that morning with me.
Wow. So you lugged in a ground blind, and I'm guessing you had a chair with you, your rifle, all your hunting stuff, and all that, right?
Yeah, it was not such a quiet walk in. Luckily, there was a lot of dew dripping off the leaves, so I think that kind of concealed a lot of my movement getting in there. But yeah, I carried a lot of gear in that morning for sure.
Yeah, well, I've hunted from ground blinds. I know it requires not just the bulky blind, but like I said, you got to have a chair to sit in there, and not to mention just all your hunting gear and rifle and all that stuff. So, assuming you're getting in there before daylight and kind of getting set up.
Actually, me personally, I found it better to wait just before daylight, so I'm not having to, fumble around through the woods with a flashlight.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of more my style.
Hey, and I don't think we're gonna critique your style after what you did Saturday. So, so that's just the way you roll. I like it. So you get in there, you get set up. Now, are you hunting like an area of a hardwood bottom or thicket, or what kind of area is it?
It's more of a hardwood bottom where I'm set up. That's surrounded by pine thickets on hilltops.
You hunting where you can see, but thick all around. Sounds like.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so and now is this kind of this particular spot that you're at? Is this is this a particular spot where you go often? I mean, I know you're talking about an area in Jasper County, but this particular hardwood bottom, have you hunted it a lot?
I am very familiar with this area. I actually took a smaller 8-pointer there last year, and it's just one of those spots that it seems like every time I go there, I see deer. Even if it's just doe, I always see deer in that area.
No kidding. Hey, if you've got a place like that on National Forest, I'd keep it tight. That's a special kind of place there, because some National Forest hunters, if they see a deer in a weekend, and I'm just getting this from folks we've talked to over the years, if they see one deer over the weekend, that's a success. So, but you got a place where you're seeing deer essentially every time you're going. That's a great spot. So you get set up. It's a little bit after daylight. You get in your blind and you're ready to roll. Did you see any deer early, or kind of walk me through that?
So actually, I guess to take it all the way back, my initial plan was not to hunt that area, or not to hunt that spot. I was planning on hunting near a power line that I typically hunt, but someone beat me to it.
Oh.
So with this spot kind of being in my back pocket, I decided to go check it out. I knew there were a bunch of scrapes in the area from being in there a couple weeks earlier. So I get in there, and I actually, like I said, had a lot of gear toting in, so I actually bumped a deer on the way in, and assumed it was just a doe. I never seen it too good, just kind of seen the back end of it. So I get down in there, I find a nice spot to set up my blind. I get the blind set up. I'm trying to be quiet, but know that I'm making more noise than typical. I wanted to get it set up and as comfortable as I could be, to settle in for a nice hunt. And as soon as I get settled in the blind, I sit down in my chair. I hear something moving to the left side. I take a look out the blind window, and I see the deer coming down the hill from the pine thicket. I got a good look at him with the binoculars, and I seen his one side of his rack. So I knew it was a buck. So I grabbed my rifle. I put the scope on him, and he's facing me at this time, so I see how wide the rack is, and I immediately just, get on his shoulder and squeeze the trigger, and down he went.
No way.
Like that.
No way. Just that quick and that easy?
I couldn't believe it. It took me more time to walk in than it did to sit there and actually see and take the deer.
Could you imagine if you'd been 15 minutes later?
Well, that's kind of one thing that always stands out to me. It's like either 1 minute in either direction for that deer or myself, and the encounter never even happens. So
Sure.
it's definitely a blessing.
Well, and not to mention the whole deal with the power line. I didn't know that. I know you have no idea who was hunting over there, but man, if you could just meet him and just say, "Hey, man, I appreciate it. I appreciate you." So that's amazing. That's amazing. So you get. Literally. So like you're saying, 10 minutes passed by the time you got settled in, and here he came.
No, I as soon as I sit down in the chair in the blind and I'm settled in, it happened.
So you're minutes.
Within minutes, yes.
Wow. I mean, hey, I always like to say when it's your time, and I'm going to just say, Tony, it was your time. So and that's awesome. So you said he just fell right there. What kind of rifle are you shooting?
I was actually using a Savage 308. The gun was actually given to me by my father-in-law this past weekend. He wants to pass the gun down to my son, which is only now 2 years old. And my father-in-law actually requested that I take the gun hunting and kill a deer with it. And I was able to do that.
No. Wow. That adds a whole nother element to the story.
Yeah, it was a pretty, it seemed like a pretty special special deal to take that caliber of deer with the rifle that was given to me by my father-in-law for sure.
Yeah, and now it's neat to think about. Man, it's just, that is I've got to let that soak in just to think about everything going on there with your father-in-law. You know, his heart is to give you a rifle, you know, a family heirloom to pass down to your son who's 2 years old, and he says, I want you to take a deer hunting with you this weekend, and then you go and kill a deer like that from public land. I mean, that's, man, Tony, I'm so I'm so glad we were able to connect to the podcast, because that's good stuff right there, you know. So, and you can think about it when, you know, another 10 years or however many years, you can be sitting down and sharing that story with your son, you know, and it's going to mean that much more to him. So, and another cool thing, this podcast is going to be online forever, and man, you can always point to him, and so we've got this recorded as well. So, very, very cool story for sure. So you shoot this deer, and you said he just went right down. There was no blood trailing involved, correct?
Well, he did just go right down, but at the time I didn't know it because he kind of went down behind some brush. It's and kind of behind a little ledge. I didn't hear him run off and didn't see him run off, so I was pretty confident that he went down right there. You know, I told myself I'm going to sit here for a good 30 minutes before I get out of the blind, because I knew he was definitely the biggest buck that I'd ever taken. So I didn't want to screw it up in any way. But honestly, I couldn't sit there more than 5 minutes, and I get out of the blind, and the deer was probably only about 35 to 40 yards away. So I pull up the binocular to see if I can find him, you know, on the ground, and surely there he was. I could see one side of his rack sticking up off the ground, so he was down right there. There was no tracking.
Good grief. So you obviously immediately get out of the blind and go over to your deer. What do you think when you first get there and get your hands on them, and I'm sure it was kind of an emotional deal for you. I mean, what's going through your head right there?
You know, I honestly, it happened so fast that the adrenaline never really got to pumping like it typically would. But I was completely amazed when I seen the deer, just once again being hunting in that area for the past 10 years and not really expecting to encounter a buck like that on public land. I was just completely amazed and overjoyed that, you know, I was lucky enough to have that opportunity. Sure,
absolutely. So he is a 9-pointer. Where again, you're not sure about the score, but we've got a 22-inch inside spread on this thing.
Yes, sir.
That is crazy. Well, as you know, we keep up with county by county records, and man, after the 60 days gets up, we need to get that thing officially scored and make note of them and put them in our county records for Jasper County. So you're all alone, right? You didn't have any help getting this big boy out to the truck, I take it.
Yeah, I was all alone that morning. Luckily, I had a game cart, so I went back and got that, and it made the trip out a lot easier.
Absolutely, yeah.
It was still pretty rough.
Yep. Well, every good public land hunter has a game cart, right?
Yes, sir.
So, well, that's great. So, I got to ask you though, are you a GON subscriber?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay, so no entry into the truck buck contest, huh?
That's correct. I actually travel a lot for work and don't get to hunt it quite as much as I like to. So, it's kind of one of those deals where I've been out of town for a while and hadn't been able to settle into my normal hunting routine, but otherwise I probably would definitely be a GON subscriber.
Yep. Well, understand it, and I can tell that you're a fan of the magazine, because that was your first thought once you killed the deer. I got to get this to gone. So a lot of big deer get killed. Folks aren't subscribers, and but still, man, that doesn't take away from the fact that we want to talk to you and, you know, lift up your accomplishment and talk about the deer. So, man, I can't be any more thrilled for you, Tony. I'm excited about writing the article, putting it online, and showing it, pushing it out through our social media outlets, and just kind of bragging on you, man. So I think it's just awesome. So you still got one buck tag left, right?
Yes, sir. I'm definitely gonna use the rest of my opportunity to hunt this year to check out some new areas. I like to get out and see what's around. So I'm going to leave that spot to someone else.
I hear you. Well, let me ask you a question. You're a public land prowler out there, Oconee National Forest. Do you hunt any WMAs?
No, sir.
So you're strictly Oconee National Forest hunter.
I have been, but once again, like I said, doing all the traveling that I do, I typically don't enter any of the quota hunts, and just because I don't know what my schedule may be, but not opposed to WMAs, but
just don't
the
really have
Oconee
time.
National Forest it's pretty convenient for me. So that's and I know a lot of areas there, so that's just typically where I go.
That's good. That's good. Let me ask you, how's the hunter traffic out there this year? Are you seeing about the same, more, less, or what?
It's typically been the same. During the buck only days, there's not many people out there. This past weekend when I did kill the deer, it was a doe day. So the woods were definitely more populated than usual.
And how would you, if you can, I mean, is it crowded? I mean, do you go out through there and you're like, good grief, there's trucks everywhere, or is it really not as bad as some may think, or can you kind of put your thumb on that?
I would say for a beginner or someone who hasn't hunted that area as much, it would probably seem a little populated. There are quite a few trucks parked along the road, but for myself, like I said, I know quite a few areas, so I'm able to bounce around and find other areas to hunt. But I would say it's quite a bit populated.
Gotcha. Well, obviously, you doing your homework paid off in this situation because of the whole deal with the power line, and that's where you were going, and there's a truck there, and so I'm going to go to another spot, and it just all worked out for you. So fantastic stuff, Tony. I cannot wait until we can get an official Boone and Crockett score to get a tape on that thing after your 60 days are up, and we'll enter it in our county records, and I'm fixing to get to work on an online story for you, and can't wait to show it off that way, and then this podcast will air, and so we'll always have a record of truly what I would call the buck of a lifetime. So, Tony, I know you're busy. I know you're at work today, and listen, man, I really do appreciate you taking the time, okay?
Yeah, Brad, I really appreciate you and everyone from GON for helping me get this recognized. This is definitely definitely the best buck for me so far. Hopefully not the best ever. I'm going to keep after him, but I really appreciate the recognition from GON. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna count on you to reach out to me again when you kill your next one, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, take care, Tony.
You too. Thanks.
Hey, y'all. Got a question for the GON crew? Whether it's about hunting, fishing, or just life, we want to hear from you. Call 678-729-7366 and leave us a message. Your question may be on a future podcast, but we'll do our best to give you the answer. As always, we appreciate you reading GON Magazine and listening to the Gone Outdoors podcast. Find all the podcasts and a ton more about the outdoors on GON.com. Until next time, y'all stay well.